Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amber and this is Fundy Freed. Before we get started today, I just want to say welcome back if you've been here before, and hello if this is the first time you're watching one of my videos. If you like what I'm doing, again, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications. I put out a new video every Friday. Today we will be talking about part 3 of my story. That's 6, hold on. 3 of my story. I can't count today. And this will take place from about 2016 up until about 2020, so about a 4-year span. And then the last chunk, the part 4, will be from 2020 to present. I realize after posting the other videos that I have not given you an honest, a clear timeline because I'm jumping around a lot. So part 1 is from earliest memory to mid-high school. Part 2 is from like 2005, 2006 until about 2015. That gives you kind of a sense of the years and the gaps there. One last thing before we get into the video, don't forget that we are doing the 500 subscriber challenge. Let's see if we can get to 500. If we get to 500, then I will do a hot ones or a hot sauce challenge where I do Bible trivia, answer questions, do different things while trying to eat super spicy hot things. And I'm a big baby, super huge baby whenever it comes to spicy things, so this could be really rough. Now that all the intro stuff is done, that's a lot to say. Let's get into today's video. All right, so today we're going to be talking about part 3 of my story. If you have not seen part 1 or part 2, I will link the playlist up here on one of these sides. I don't know which side it's going to go on. And you can go back and watch part 1 and part 2 if that so interests you. I know I put a trigger warning up in my intro anyway, but I just want to reiterate this trigger warning. There is going to be talks of severe PTSD, depression, anxiety, unaliving thoughts. There's just a lot of things going to be packed into this episode that's going to be very hard to talk about and maybe very triggering for some people. So if that is not something you're comfortable with, you do not have to watch this. Please feel free just to skip this. I can link something else, or you can click one of my other videos. Go look into my deep dives or something a little less triggery, because this is going to be a lot today. So we ended last time talking about the fact that we decided to move back to Tennessee after living in Montana for about a year, and the mental health crisis I kind of got into because of that. We decided in the spring, late spring, early summer of 2016 to move back to Tennessee, just to up and leave everything, our careers, our future, our whole plans. I mean, we had an amazing place to live. We had jobs that were fantastic. I was moving along pretty progressively in building my lactation and doula business. There was just a lot of good things going on there, but the mental health aspects of the situation with my dad made it to where we had really no other choice. It was basically my mental health, my sanity, or these career options. And so my husband stepped up and made the decision, it was probably best for us to change places and find our future somewhere else. So we called up his parents and told them that we feel like we needed to move back. We told them that we understood that we'd probably have to live with them for about 6 months because we needed Sam to get a chance to get his job, everything squared away, money to save up for the house because the expense of moving, and people were helping us financially to move. There's just this whole thing. His sister and brother-in-law and their kids currently lived with his parents at the time. They were renovating a house. So basically our moving to Tennessee pushed their deadline and made them have to move out a lot sooner than what they planned. It was just really bad timing. The whole thing kind of just started off on a wrong foot. I was very angry and very bitter about having to move. I loved Miles City. I loved Montana so much. I was angry and I was upset and I was frustrated with myself. I was frustrated with the situation, and I did not want to have to inconvenience or put anyone out because of that. We had a good church. In that church, side note, I forgot to put this in there last time. The church that we started going to in Miles City, whenever we first went there, my husband had a PTSD service dog. And whenever we went into the church the first time with the service dog, because she went with us everywhere, we were asked by the pastor to leave unless Sam could come back without her, because he should be able to pray away his PTSD. Became a huge issue. Thankfully, this church actually did step up, remove that pastor from that position and brought in someone else, because they said that is not the way that we handle things. That is not Christ-like. This is not okay. We are so sorry. One of the guys over the music there, he, Scott Leach, I want to call him out because he's just a fantastic guy. Just a wonderful, wonderful human. He came to our house the week after the incident happened, and he said that he was so sorry. He was in tears. He was just heartbroken over the situation. And they were just good people altogether. So it was a hard thing to leave, to go from that to not really knowing where we're going to go to church. We didn't want to go back to the church that we originally went to in Tennessee, because we did not agree with it. We both at this point had been so far removed from the fundamentalist world that we did not want to jump both feet back into it. And Sam just was not in a mental space to be able to do that. So anyway, bring back forward to summer 2016. So we pack up everything. I go and tell my mom goodbye, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, because I know she leaned so much on me trying to work through everything, and I wanted so much to be there for her, but my mental health was just not okay. And then we met my dad at his work at the time to tell him goodbye. And he looks at me and he says, "You leaving is not going to change me." Because I know that's because I told him why we were leaving. I told him and my mom straight up why we were leaving. He was like, "You're leaving? It's not going to change what I'm doing. I'm going to still do what I feel like I need to do, and you do what you feel like you need to do." And of course he's like, "I love you, bye," that kind of thing. And it was just very dismissive, very disingenuous, and very hurtful because of the mental space I was in. We load all of us up, me in the car with two of the kids, one in the U-Haul with Sam, and off we go. We start driving into the east, and we arrive in Tennessee 3 days later. Let me just put it this way. We were very welcomed, very loved, and everyone was happy that we came back. But I personally, because of everything I was dealing with, felt like we had inconvenienced everyone because we had moved back. We forced his sister and her family out of the house into a house that wasn't ready. This is my mind talking. We're taking over this spot. I'm trying to make some type of normalcy for the kids. The girls are having this expectation that they get to spend time with grandparents, and it just did not happen that way. And it became a very high source of contention and frustration on my part. When you take two family units who are very separate and very different on a basic moral standpoint, and put them together in a house, you're going to have a bit of conflict. But for the most part, over the 3 years, you'll find out why soon, the 3 years we lived there, we were able to navigate it pretty well, considering the circumstance. Sam had lined up a job for himself where he was going to go and be a school resource officer for a school. And so he got accepted into the academy, and that was what the 6 months was going to be. He got 6 months of paid training and then got put onto a job. In my mind, this situation was only supposed to be temporary. So everything we had went into the basement of his sister's house, who so graciously stored our stuff for forever in one of her spare rooms. And we moved ourselves in. We had the girls in a bunk bed. In the bottom of the bunk bed was a full-size bed. And we took the rail from the crib and put it down the middle. So there was two sides to the bed. So one, and then the other got to sleep on that, and then the oldest got the top bunk. We had about 900 square feet to our side of the house, and was ideal for a short-term situation. We get through the next few months, we get through the holidays. The whole time I'm just still seriously struggling. Sam graduates, he gets placed into school, and we're starting to be able to save money, and everything seems to be going really well. And then one Sunday where we at church, because we started going with his parents to his sister's church. We're sitting there, and Sam is holding our youngest, and he's holding her, and all of a sudden he slumps over onto my shoulder and starts shaking like uncontrollably, and he's locked up. And I'm like, what's going on? I had no clue what was going on with him. I'm just looking at him, and he's like shaking, and then he won't wake up. Well, that scares me. We finally get him woke up, but he's extremely lethargic and extremely sleepy. And so I'm like, we're just going to get him home and just get him to rest, because maybe it's just stress. Maybe there's just a lot of stress, which there was at the time. So we get him home, and his mom's like, that kind of looked like a seizure. And I'm like, it did kind of look like a seizure, didn't it? And I'm like, but that's weird. He doesn't have seizures. He's never had seizures in his life. And so we're like, maybe it's just a fluke. Maybe he's overtired, because he rarely slept because of his PTSD. So we took him home, let him rest. 2 days later, he hit the floor again, and another convulsive spell. At this point, I called the doctor, and the doctor's like, let's try to get him in, let's get him looked at, and then we'll refer him to a neurologist to see what's going on. In that waiting period of waiting for the doctor's appointment and the referral, he had 5 more, as we know now, were seizures in that time, and they were all grand mal seizures. We go to the neurologist, the first neurologist that the VA recommended us to go to. And the VA healthcare system is like a totally different beast that I just can't stand. But anyway, so we go there, and the neurologist is like, you have diabetes, that's probably why, and you're also too stressed. So I'm going to put you on this medication just to calm down the seizures. You should be fine. He puts him on Keppra, which we didn't know at the time was actually very bad for people with PTSD, because it can bring back a lot of these emotions and a lot of these feelings and increase the symptoms of the PTSD. And we were not aware of this. So, and he had him taking all of the medication in the morning versus morning and night. So, and of course we know nothing. I'm not a nurse. I did do a little work in lactation work, but that's babies and breast milk. That is not anything to do with the human brain. We get home, and he starts the Keppra. And what we're finding is with the medicine that he's on is that not stopping the seizures. It's actually pushing them more into a pattern. So he went from having sporadic seizures to having 2 to 3 seizures a week in the evenings. And on top of that, with the seizure breaking everything down and like misfiring everything in combination with the medication, he went from how far he had progressed to that point with his dealing with his PTSD to just got back from Afghanistan PTSD. Like, we're talking like the anger, the mood swings, the sleeplessness, the outbursts, the rage, the whole gamut, and also the unaliving conversations. It was all over again. I was still in the middle, still so much in the middle of my own mental health crisis, that then this was added on top of it. So I call the VA, and I'm like, hey, something's not right. Something's not working. He's still having seizures, and I don't appreciate that the neurologist that you're sending us to he's dismissing the fact that my husband has a traumatic brain injury completely. Diagnosed TBI, it's on his retirement paperwork, that type of thing. He has a rating for it. And so they're like, well, we can try to get you a second referral, but it could take months. Not weeks, months. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. We will make do. Just get us into somewhere. I don't care. Just get us somewhere. And this persistence of me calling every week, trying to get the ball rolling to get a second opinion, took about 7 months. In the meantime, we are dealing with fireworks, we're dealing with outbursts, we're dealing with all of these things. Plus, on top of that, being around a group of people who love us so very much and want the best for us, but don't know how to deal with the situations that they're now having to deal with. I, at this point, had um 4, 5 years of dealing with the issues and knowing the triggers and what to avoid and what to say and what not to say, and the family just didn't. So it was like, oh, the seizures you need to slow down, you need to relax, you need to like let this go, you need to pray, we're praying more. And all of these accolades were coming from a very tender and pure spot because they really wanted him to be okay, wanted us to be okay. But really, in essence, none of it helped because we didn't need spirituality at the time. We needed hard fact support. We needed unconditional love, which we got the unconditional love in that time. Don't get me wrong. It's just we needed help that the church could not give us. And it was constantly over our head, that unspoken expectation that as long as we continue to do all these steps, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z for in our Christianity, God will work everything out. Here's the thing. We're humans. We have issues. We have medical issues. We have all these things. And yes, God can cure people and make miracles happen, but for by and large, we learned how to deal with them ourselves and through the help of the doctors, who I believe God has given wisdom to handle things, to psychologists, to psychiatrists, to therapists, all of these things. And so I continuously pushed for proper medication, proper doctors, proper everything. And it was just this constant survival mode in battle. At the 7-month mark, we finally made it. We had to go out to Asheville, North Carolina, to that VA to get seen by a second opinion neurologist. And whenever we get there, we go in, and the doctor sits down with us, and he's kind of eccentric, but he sits down with us, and he's like, yeah, this is totally from your traumatic brain injury. And he writes it out. And he's like, what medicine are you on? Keppra. Why the heck are you on Keppra? And he actually he was swearing in the office. He was such a great guy. Anyway, he's like, why the heck are you on Keppra? And he's like, writes all this stuff out. And he's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We are weaning you off Keppra like today. Immediately, we're going to start weaning you off. And we're going to start putting you on this new medication that you will take balanced between morning and night. And you should see an improvement in mood and an improvement in your seizures and a complete stability as the medicine kicks in properly and you get the Keppra out of your system. I am so happy for my husband, but I'm very skeptical. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what happens. It worked. It was like a miracle of miracles. It worked. Began the process of pushing the VA for 100% disability because Sam could not work a full-time job. We needed income. I couldn't work because Sam needed me home to take care of him. And we still had 3 young kids. And his family is very busy with other things. So there was no expectation on my end that they would pick up the extra slack for my kids because that's just not how I roll. So, and no shade to people who do, but it's my trauma response. I don't like asking for help. After that meeting, like we started the paperwork right then to start pushing for 100% disability. This process would take another 1.5, 2 years, right around the 2-year mark. And in that time, we lived in his parents' house. And our oldest started school. Oh my gosh. So she started kindergarten, and I knew for a fact I was not able or capable to homeschool my children. We did not have the means. I looked everywhere. We did not have the financial means to send her to a Christian school at all. Zero. And really, in honesty, with my experience, my husband's experience with Christian schools, we were very skeptical of sending our children to Christian schools because we both had a very, very bad experience. We made the decision to send her to a nearby public school. And if I cannot explain to you the amount of guilt and fear and shame I had over sending my child to public school because of how much it was ingrained in me to not give my children over to the world or to the devil and send them into public school. Because in my mind, they're going to be taught about evolution on day one of kindergarten. You know, that's what they imply to you. That's what people basically tell you. They're going to be taught about Satan and the LGBTQ plus community, which I don't care about that. But in fundamentalist minds, this is a really big deal. And of course, evolution is also a massive deal, which I personally think evolution and creation tie together, but I digress. I did send her to school. We did send her to the public school. And let me tell you, she's been there ever since. She's about to get out, move into junior high. And oh my goodness, we have had the best experience in this public school. And we now have them going to our private school because of just some opportunities that they have going, and we are in a place that we're able to do that. But I would not crap on a public school in comparison to a Christian school. To me, they're the exact same. They just teach things just a little bit differently. But the kids and the teachers, the humans, the humanity, all of that, still the same. Drugs, sex, alcohol, swearing, is all the same in all the schools. Don't let people kid you. I'm on a rabbit trail. Let's get back on that track now. It was 2018. The end of 2018 is whenever we finally got the 100% total, permanent total. So 2 years. It would have been 2 years since we'd been fighting for it. So with that, we got back pay, which is fantastic because that meant we were able to finally buy a house. We started house hunting. We found a place that was near the school that they were developing land to build a subdivision, and we put in an offer and we purchased our house. It was a long time coming. There's a lot of time in that 3-year period that I don't remember because, like I said 1,000 million times before, dissociative amnesia because of survivor syndrome is just, it's crazy. In the time while he was dealing with the issues with the Keppra and like the depression, the church we went to, the pastor basically called him out and said that he had a demon on him in front of the entire congregation. And that was almost like the last straw, in a sense, of that type of fundamentalism. And the person who did it was not meaning it intentionally to be harmful or bad, but the mental state my husband was in at the time, it was just not needed. So we started going to my old church, like old church. But financially, we just could not afford to go there anymore because it was like an hour and 15 minutes away. So we started going to a different church, and which was like really close to our house. It was King James only, of course. But they seemed to be a lot more progressive with their convictions and their beliefs. So, meaning that women can wear pants, I have tattoos and I could still play the piano. Women were allowed to work. They could hold various positions in ministry, but nothing, of course, over men. So I thought, for the first time, I found something that was going to be really good for us, because I'm like, it's still fundamental and still IFB, but I am able to still kind of be myself, which really I wasn't really myself, but it's a baby step. The church is and was full of very wonderful, good people. And in part 4, we'll talk about the doctrinal reasons why we're no longer there. But we moved into our house in August of 2019, and it was like almost like the aha moment, like we arrived. We finally did it. After so long, so much fighting, so much everything, we finally made it. Then 2020 hit. And the world turned upside down for all of us. Step aside from all that, during this time, I was, like I said, I was still really super struggling, like really struggling mentally. And I had completely lost myself. And I'd finally found a therapist who helped me start recognizing, like really doing the work and recognizing things that I was struggling with. One of which, the biggest thing was that I felt I had the inability to, or had the inability to feel loved. Like people could say they loved me, but I never really know what that felt like. I just know what it felt like when I loved other people, and I didn't feel like people reciprocated that same amount of emotion. And that, of course, was stemmed from just trauma growing up. So I would always do acts of service and be always like jumping as high as I could for every person I came across to make sure I maintained that level of good rapport and everything to keep what that superficial idea of love, if that makes sense. Both this therapist, I started working through all of that, and I realized that, and it was the first time I realized that self-care was not bad. That self-care is not bubble baths and, you know, wine o'clock and all of these things. Self-care is actually investing in loving myself enough to take care of myself so then I can then give myself and take care of others. And I stumbled across a audition thing on like a Facebook ad. And I did a short stint in musical theater in high school whenever my parents were not crazy strict. And I loved it. I loved musical theater. I was like, hey, Annie's coming out. Like they're doing auditions for the musical Annie up here in a local theater. Why don't I give it a try? And my husband was like, yeah, go for it. You do it. You can do it. And I'm like, okay. So I prepped my song. I decided to do a Dream, but from Les Mis, which is like my favorite musical of all time. And I go from that and I go into the audition. And in the midst of the audition, I mean, I'm telling you, I am so insecure at this point, so terribly insecure. I'm insecure, and I'm also 90 pounds heavier than I am now. So, and the 90, and of course, weight does not factor into self-worth, but whenever you are overweight, you understand that you can inhibit yourself because you're projecting your own insecurities onto other people. Anyway, so I go in and I tell myself, I do my little spiel, and then I do my vocal audition. And as I'm singing to the track stops, and I have to finish the song then a cappella, which if anyone has heard this song, and if you are musically inclined, you understand this song is very hard to sing with the backing track, let alone a cappella. So I just knew I'd flubbed it up. And then I had to go from that spot into another room and do a dance audition. Girl, listen, I don't dance. I have rhythm because I'm a musician, and that's it. I do not know how to dance. I can't move. I'm stiff. I am whiter than white bread, okay? But I went in and I did the dance audition, and I was like, you know what? This was fun. I had a great time. There's just no way in heck I'm going to get this. So I go home, and then 2 days later, I get a call saying, hey, would you like the part of Cecil? Cecil? I can't remember her character's name. Oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, I would. So that literally changed, that phone call. I'm not even joking. That phone call changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I finally found purpose outside of being a caregiver and a parent and a wife. And so I all of a sudden had rehearsals to go to every night. I had choreography. And the director and the executive producer, they were so wonderful. They were so kind to me, and like, they didn't even look twice. I was like this oversized woman. They're just like, we're so happy you're here. You're so talented. And they just saw me. I think it was the first time in years, I felt like I was seen purely for my character and my talent and my abilities, and not for my physical appearance. And it did wonders for my self-esteem. So I got to know Robert Kalina really well. He was the executive producer, and he's become one of our really good friends. During this time, I was also learning how to sew. I was like doing all these things, trying to figure out myself. Through Annie, I met a man named Chris Wood. And Chris Wood was a man of many, 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 many hats. He was larger than life. He was just a phenomenal, phenomenal person. And as Annie was wrapping up and we were getting ready to move on to the next show, which was going to be a junior show, he was doing You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and they were looking for a costumer, and I'm like, hey, I make clothes. I can do costuming. So he brought me on as lead costumer. So I pulled out my sketch pad and I was doing all the little designs and talking to him. And oh my gosh, that man believed so much in me. Like he was so honest with me, and he would tell me when I screwed up, but he always did it in a nice way. But he was always so good to reinforce how talented he thought I was, how far he could see me going. He really, truly, he truly believed in me. So I started, sorry guys, I had to get myself together. So I started working really closely with him on You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And everything that he brought to me, I helped him create this beautiful vision of what he wanted for the one weekend show that we did. But from that, we created a really special bond, and he became my mentor of sorts. And he told me, he said, Amber, don't dream. He's like, everybody dreams. Everybody in this world has a dream that they want to achieve. He said, don't dream, just do. Put feet on your dreams and make it happen. He's like, no one else, he's like, nothing's gonna happen. You sitting there just daydreaming about it. And I took his advice and I ran with it. From there, I started reaching out to different crime reenactment shows and getting to be cast in crime reenactments for like Snapped and Why Women Kill, all of these different shows. I would have questions about different things in this type of entertainment career, and I'd call him up and say, hey, what do you think about this? And we'd just bounce ideas off each other. He started a creative arts academy, and I was like his administrative assistant, and I was helping him get all those things going. And then 2020 happened, and next episode I'll talk more about what happened during the pandemic in my life, but I just want to take a minute to talk about Chris. And we lost Chris to COVID very quickly. The last time I saw him was in December of 2019, and we met up because someone wanted me to come and meet with them about directing like a one-person play for them. And I didn't know the guy, but I knew Chris, and Chris I trusted, so I was like, hey, you know, Sam is working, do you mind coming with me so I'm not just going over to this random person's place? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll come with you, not a problem. Like, he dude drove from Knoxville up into Pigeon Forge to make sure I was safe. I mean, he was just that kind of guy. I hugged him goodbye and I told him thank you for everything, and we'll have to get lunch soon. That soon never came. He got COVID, and within 3 days he was on a ventilator, and within 4 days he was passed away. And because of COVID and the restrictions on funerals and all those things, I was not able to go and tell him goodbye. It was a hard loss for me. And I know I am not the only person who lost people during 2020 and to COVID, and I know his family is hurting so much deeper than I am, or I did. But he was a catalyst in really pushing me to become better than what I am, and appreciating and acknowledging my own talent and knowing that I'm capable of much more than what I ever thought was possible. So a lot of this platform, a good portion of this platform is partly because of him. This is a passion project of mine, I don't like the word ministry, but like just this outreach of mine that I've always wanted to be able to reach out and help people and help them understand help them feel like they're not alone in their situation. And his encouragement and his go get 'em attitude, and you only live once, live life to the fullest, put feet on your dreams and make it happen. That encouragement and that belief and that drive that was put into me from him still lives on. It still lives in me. And I have accomplished so many crazy things since meeting him and since 2020, which I'll go into next video. Oh, that got a little more emotional than I expected it to. I haven't really talked about Chris since he passed away, and so that was a bit of a emotional release there. And so thank you so much for sticking with me this long, and next month will be the last part of my story, because then you'll be all current and caught up with where I am now. And now you guys are part of my current part 5 story. So don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of the episodes. And I really so much appreciate your all support. Do not forget the 500. Don't forget the 500 subscriber challenge for the hot ones, so I can eat the hot spicy things and cry on camera in more of a funny way than in an emotional way for your all's enjoyment. If you'd like to send in memes or send in your own story, or you'd like to be part of one of the survivor stories, or you have a topic you'd like to talk about, anything you'd like to do, please follow the instructions in the box below, and get that information, that stuff over to me. Please comment. I love to hear your comments, and I love getting feedback from everything. You guys are fantastic, and I love you guys so much. Until next time, my friends, everyone has a story. What's yours?